This video is going to try to help you guys have another example of that process that we're using when we divide fractions through the visual models. There's also some practice problems at the end of each of the sections, and the solutions are going to be at the end of the slide. For this first section, we're going to be looking at dividing whole numbers by a fraction. And you can see here we have the equation 5 divided by 3/4. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how many pieces that are 3/4 of one unit will go into 5 whole units. The first thing that we want to look at is this idea right here. Step 1, show the dividend. This is the number that's being divided visually. So this is my 5 right here. That's my dividend. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 complete boxes where each one of those boxes equals one whole unit. Now that we have that, and when you're doing this process, this will all be one picture at the end. I just try to really separate this out so that you guys could see step by step what did we change in this image. So step 2 of this, use the denominator of the divisor. Use the denominator of the divisor, that number that's doing the dividing, to determine how many parts the whole units are broken into. So in this case, that number is that 4 that the arrow is pointing to right now. So I take each of my wholes, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of these 5 whole units are broken into fourths. Now what we've done here is that the 5 whole is now equal to the 25th. Once we have this idea that the pieces are all the same size, the size of it doesn't matter. Now what I'm saying is I have 20 pieces. I want to know how many groups of 3 I can make those into. And that's at step 3. How many groups of 3? Because now they're all the 4th size. So they all have, each one of these little boxes here, 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 are all equal to 1/4. So the size of them are equivalent. This is what makes a problem like 20 divided by 4 easy. And we automatically go to that being 5. Because 20 and 4 each have that denominator of 1. We're talking about whole units there. So when I look at this, my groups of 3, I want to know how many groups of 3 can I make. So I've highlighted and numbered as well. Each highlighted color represents one full group of 3, and you can see that I have 6 full groups of 3. And then we end up with these 2 extra boxes. Well, those 2 extra represent 2/3 of another full set. So I have 1, 2, 3 boxes that make up one unit. So now I end up with this idea that 3/4 will go into 5 whole boxes evenly 6 times, with 2/3 remaining. Down here I have 3 practice problems that you can try. Again, the answers are at the end of this slideshow. For this one, we're going to be looking at dividing a fraction by a whole number. This one's a little bit different than the one previous. Here, we're taking a part of something and dividing it into pieces. So think about if I had $1, and now I start off with half of that dollar. I'm going to split this between 3 people. So now in my head I'm thinking, well, a half dollar is 50 cents. I'm going to divide that by 3. So everybody's going to get less than the 50 cents, obviously. But they all end up with an equal share of that 50 cents. So we have to get our head wrapped around this idea that we're not breaking it into another fractional piece here. That we're just breaking whatever part we have into, in this case, the 3 equal pieces. Just like the last one, we're going to draw the dividend model. So we start off. It's a little different looking here because I've already highlighted. I did that because I want to represent or show what I already have. I know I have 1/2, so I can look at my model and I see that this yellow represents 1/2 of a full unit. From here, step 2 is divide what we have by the divisor. So I'm going to divide this into 3 equal chunks. So you can see here I divide my half into those 3 equal chunks. Well, it's that idea of what is 9 divided by 3? 3. So I look at what I have. I have 3 pieces. What is that 3 pieces divided by 3? And I get 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'm taking what I have and I'm dividing it by whatever value it tells me to divide by. Finally, because we want to know this isn't a half-size piece yet, that's not 1/2, I want to look at, well, what size is this? So in terms of that whole, I go back and now, however I divided this section here up, I do the same thing to this side, and I can see that in this whole unit, there are 6 total pieces. So that leaves me with my 3 divided by 3 was 1. So what I had was 1 of the 3 pieces, and that is a 1/6 size. So my number that I got here becomes the numerator. The total number of pieces I get here becomes my denominator. Again, you could check all of these with the rule, and that's going to help you out figuring out what we need to do and make sure that our visual is still the correct value. We have 3 practice problems down here as well. Please go through, try these, and again, the answers are in the back. With the problem here, we're going to look at dividing a fraction by a fraction. So now we're looking at a part of a whole, and then we're going to be dividing that by a part of a whole. The problem that I have for our example is 4/5 divided by 2/3. You'll see the same process starting is draw the dividend model, but now I also draw the divisor model here because I have both of these as fractions. I break the first one up and highlight 4/5 of the whole to represent my dividend. The second one I break into 2/3 to represent my divisor. Now, to make this easy for me, I'm going to look, because these pieces don't line up perfectly, I want to find that common denominator so that I could be comparing equal sized pieces. So I look, between 5 and 3, the common denominator is 15. I'm going to take my groups of 5 and I'm going to break each of those into 3s. My group of 3, I'm going to break each of those into 5s. So now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at how many of these blue fit into the yellow. So how many times will the blue go into the yellow? Well, if I just come down, and I drew this out again so that we could see this individually, the blue highlighted represented 10 pieces, 10/15ths of my whole. So when I go back and look at comparing, this group of 10 makes 1 whole. But then I have these 2 extra here. Those become that 2/10 towards my next whole amount. The 2/10 simplifies down to 1/5. So as we look through here, the key is look at your units. What do they visually look like? Find that common denominator. Figure out how many sections of it make up that divisor. So now I'm thinking, well, I know that there's 10 of these make up 1 unit. So then map them out here. I could put the box around it like I did here. Maybe you want a number. Maybe you want to count and color that a different highlighter color. But you make sure there's 10 here, that's 1. And then these 2 extra are the next whole value that I'm working towards. So I ended up with my 1 2/10, which again we want to always simplify, and it becomes 1 1/5. The last section we're going to talk about today is the dividing a mixed number by a fraction. This is where we have, in this case, 2 3/4 divided by 1/2. So on this problem, I want to go through and I want to think about, well, what is this doing? I have 2 full units, and then I have 3/4 of a third. So again, draw that model. What does that dividend look like? Now, and you can see again, I highlighted. Anytime that I have a partial, I highlight right away because I want to make sure that I don't include this last fourth in my final answer, because then I change the math. We're going to break the whole values into the number of parts from the divisor denominator, just like we did in that first one where it was the whole number divided by the fraction. So I take my halves. So I'm going to break each of these wholes into halves, and then I can look at this one. This was 3/4, so I could kind of see, well, 2 of those make up a half, so that's where this dotted box comes from, is that I was looking at the half right there. The last thing we're going to do is, how many groups are there that are the size of the divisor numerator? So every one of these boxes becomes one whole. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're left off with half of one more. So this leaves us with 5.5 total boxes. And that's going to be how we proceed with this part. So practice the problems at the bottom, and then again, you're going to have the solutions at the end of this slide. As you look over these solutions, go through and see what you got right, what you still have questions, and let me know. We'll do a discussion at the beginning of a class, so let me know where maybe you're still struggling a little bit. Hope this was helpful. Again, email me if you have any other questions.